Hi, Mike Brainley, auctioneer, participating in what I'm calling Casual Thursday and fans tie. I'm known for wearing a tie quite frequently, and some people even conclude I always wear a tie. But today I'm just kind of casual here and discussing as auctioneers are moving. Uh, a lot of auctioneers are moving to online. And maybe this involves some auctioneers that exclusively sold live, but have moved to online in light of the coronavirus and the pandemic. And this could lead to potentially a lot of auctioneers continuing to sell online, even after this pandemic has uh, passed by us. So, some concerns for anyone selling online. And the concern we're discussing here today is wire fraud. And wire fraud, a federal crime, is usually characterized as using electronic means to defraud or misrepresent items, property, selling or otherwise being traded for consideration. And online auctions would, in my opinion, be a platform, an area where wire fraud would be uh, potentially actionable. Wire fraud, I'll tell you exactly. Wire fraud is where someone voluntarily and intentionally devised a scheme to defraud someone out of money with the intent to defraud. Um, that there was reasonable, foreseeable uh, evidence that wire communications would be used in some fashion, and they were in fact used. Online auctions involve a an area where wire fraud would be a potential risk. So, what kinds of things might an auctioneer do that would constitute wire fraud? And I would hold that this is not something that is frequently done. But if an auctioneer is tempted to do these kinds of things, I think it would be advisable to know that that there are possible penalties. So, misrepresenting property, intentionally misrepresenting property, um, possibly taking bids that aren't there, registering him or herself at the auction and portraying his bid or her bid as genuine when it wasn't. Um, when uh, absolute auctions are held that have to sell to the highest bidder, any disingenuous, fraudulent bidding would be actionable, as we say, or someone may take action as a result. So those kinds of things auctioneers would want to avoid in the online environment. And here's another reason that auctioneers might want to avoid those types of things of misrepresentation or running the bid or placing fictitious bids. And that is that the online environment is well documented. And so if there was a complaint, if there was an issue, uh, attorneys would uh, possibly or likely subpoena records. Those bidding records would be memorialized, available, and it wouldn't be. Well, let me say it this way: it would be easier to prove those types of claims because there would be more evidence if they took place. I bring up wire fraud. You know, the National Auctioneers Association published a paper about online auctions and businesses that sell property via the internet, as I glance over at the title here. And that document talked a little about fraudulent activity. And so, as a follow up to my discussion here, the National Auctioneer Association has taken a stance that those kinds of activities online are ill-advised, and it's much better, much preferred to instill confidence in the public in what they bid on, that everything is proper and upfront and disclosed and honest, and sellers can rely on their auctioneers to keep them out of potential harm, such as a lawsuit or the like. So that's our discussion about wire fraud. I would only add that the penalties for wire fraud are potentially substantial. We see as much as $250,000 in fines for individuals and $500,000 for organizations, and up to 20 years in prison. So the federal government takes a very dim view of using electronic means for fraudulent behavior. So heads up, if you're selling online, it's best to stay away from anything that could be potentially perceived as fraudulent or misrepresentation. Take good pictures. If it's got damage, describe it. If it works, tell them it works. If it doesn't work, tell them it doesn't work. Um, we have to see the forest for the trees, and the forest is the better job we do representing property and taking bids properly, the more people will enjoy and choose to participate in the auction method of marketing. Again, I'm Mike Brantley, auctioneer, and there's lots of other good content on this channel and more content forthcoming. And I invite you to take advantage of that and keep an eye. Have a great day.